Today's video is brought to you by the First Descendant. Guys, if you haven't seen it already, Nexon Games just released a hot new trailer for their upcoming game, The First Descendant, which we will be playing very soon. Now, for those of you that don't know about First Descendant, it is a sci-fi co-op looter shooter focused on exciting action, large-scale boss fights, and dynamic gameplay. Just a minute into the trailer, and we're already greeted with a plethora of unique characters, each with their own skills and abilities. There will be 10 different characters you can play and customize during the upcoming closed beta, allowing you to take on enemies using your favorite playstyle. And of course, you're going to want to have a team to take these monsters down. Join up with your friends and fight in dynamic arenas that allow you to battle however you want, and you can literally climb onto the boss and strip them of their armor. Now, as you progress through this sci-fi fantasy world, you'll be fighting to defend humanity and the continent of Ingress while slowly uncovering the secret behind your descendant powers. So guys, if you're interested, the First Descendant is hosting a Steam beta from October the 20th through the 26th. You can register today for a chance to try it out early, and of course add it to your wish list so you don't miss any future updates. Feel free to check out the First Descendant trailer if you haven't already. We'll have a link in the description, and thank you again to First Descendant for sponsoring today's video. All right, in front of us today is another Arc 3.0 Titan build. Last time we were the Lord of Thunder, but this time we're taking super regen and super damage to a whole new level. And if you're all about constant grenade spams, back-to-back supers, and insanely quick hard-hitting super damage, then this build is for you. For this Striker Titan build, you'll 100% want the Thundercrash super. Now, it's no secret that this super does way more damage than its counterpart. No need to explain, it's obvious. It's the YEET exotic for obvious reasons. For your abilities, you can pretty much use whatever you want as far as class and melees go, but as far as grenades go, you definitely want to use storm grenades because they pair so well with the Arc Titan aspects and fragments, and they work best for what we need them to do in this build. While our last build was focused on the storm grenades damage and buffing that sky high, which by the way did tremendous damage. We even have a clip on Twitter where we literally kill champs with a single grenade. One grenade. This build, we're looking more to get a number of multi-kills, which is why in this one, we're going to have consistently multiple storm grenades up at once. Now for your aspects, you're going to want to use Touch of Thunder, which gives your storm grenades enhanced functionality, making it a roaming thundercloud that tracks nearby targets and fires bolts of lightning beneath it. This aspect is so good for almost all grenades, but it's really what makes storm grenades the go-to grenade for lots of these builds. Seeing that roaming storm cloud just falling groups of enemies is amazing. It actually makes me want to have an exotic just for this functionality, which maybe could, like, I don't know, buff the speed of the thunderstorms and how fast they move, or maybe even their radius. Oh, now we're also going to be using Knockout, solely because it gives us 2 fragment slots versus Juggernaut, which only gives us 1. Now for our fragments, we're going to be using Spark of Magnitude, which makes our storm grenades last longer. Spark of Amplitude, which generates orbs of power when you get rapid kills while amplified, as well as Spark of Ions, which will create Ionic traces when you defeat a jolted target. And to top it all off, we have Spark of Shock, which makes our storm grenades do just that, jolts targets. Now let's talk about our weaponry. For your exotic, Tractor Cannon is what we're going to be using because it gives us a 30% debuff. This will make our super do even more damage. Now if you don't want to use Tractor Cannon, that's completely fine. You can swap it out for whatever exotic you want. It's not needed, but it does provide a very nice debuff for you and your fire team. Great for solo play on top of that, and it suppresses enemies. What's even more important for this build is either the new seasonal legendary sidearm, Brigand's Law, or the new seasonal legendary scout rifle, Tempered Metal. More specifically, you'll want one of these weapons with the new perk Volt Shot. Now, Volt Shot states that reloading this weapon after defeating a target overcharges this weapon, causing it to jolt on its next hit. The sidearm, Brigand's Law, will require you to be close to your enemies with this build because, well, it's a sidearm. While Tempered Metal, you'll be able to give yourself some distance. If your luck has been terrible and you haven't gotten one of these Volt Shots to drop, a Threat Detector Volt Shot Brigand's Law is obtainable at rank 30 on the Season Pass. So at least you can get that guaranteed. Both of these weapons have crazy potential though, with and without Volt Shot. By the way, if you're interested in knowing what the god rolls are for each one of these weapons, we did an overview for all Season 18 weapons, including the raid weapons, Dares of Eternity weapons, and the seasonal weapons. Feel free to check that out. But for this build specifically, I do recommend using the Scout Rifle Tempered Metal for multiple reasons. One, we have Scout Rifle champ mods for this season, so you'll be able to take this build into high-level Nightfall content. Two, there's a specific role on this weapon that benefits this build greatly, a role that Brigand's Law can't get, and that role is Demolitionist Volt Shot. Now, if you got this role, then you have the perfect weapon for this build. And of course, if you've actually grinded the red box deep sight weapons, then you can just go craft it and get enhanced Demolitionist and enhanced Volt Shot. This is definitely the combination to go though for this build, and we're going to go over exactly why here in just a second. For your exotic armor piece, we'll be taking advantage of Curious of the Falling Star, aka the YEET exotic. This is the staple of super damage in Destiny for Titans, and one of the biggest reasons why Thundercrash is so popular. The exotic trait on Curious is Glorious Charge, which greatly increases your Thundercrash impact damage. You also gain an overshield that lasts longer the further you travel before striking a target. Now this Thundercrash damage bonus is a bonus of 100%, essentially double damage. This is why this exotic is so good, but we've got an artifact mod this season that scales this damage up even further. Speaking of armor mods, let's go over that real quick. For your helmets, you'll be wanting to rock Solar Affinity and slide in 2 Ashes to Asset mods. These give you bonus super energy on grenade kills. Also slide in Charge with Light mods like Firepower. Firepower states that while Charge with Light, you regain a portion of your grenade energy back when you use your grenade, consuming 1 stack of Charge with Light. Now this mod's effects do stack with other copies of this mod, which is very important because we've got 4 of them slotted in our armor. For gloves, you're going to want to use Void Affinity and the Charge with Light mod Charge Harvester. This mod states that while you are not charged with light, any kills or assists has a cumulative chance to cause you to become charged with light. Now this mod is kind of up to you. We'll go over why we use Charge Harvester here in just a moment, but you can of course go with another mod, maybe Charge with Light instead, considering we will be producing orbs. And it really doesn't matter as long as you do become charged with light in some way. Now we don't use Elemental Wells to make us charged with light because that would require us to drop a Firepower mod, which honestly doesn't break the build by any means. It's just that 4 Firepower mods seems to make this build work perfectly. Now on our YEET exotic, you'll want Solar Affinity once again and Firepower once again. You're free to put whatever mods you want here. Boots are Solar Affinity with 2 Innervation mods. These will give you grenade energy when you pick up an orb. Again, not necessary, but nice to have. And of course you can slot in yet another Firepower mod. And finally for our class item, we've got Firepower again, bringing our total to 4. But we also got the seasonal artifact mod Thunderous Retort, which grants us bonus arc super damage if cast while critically wounded or while amplified. This bonus damage is a whopping 30% in addition to the 100% that Curious is already granting us. And on top of that extra damage, we also have Tractor Cannon, which is debuffing our enemies. Now let's talk gameplay loop. This build loop is super easy to understand, and there's really not that much going on here. The whole point of the build is just to regenerate your super very fast, and have that super do some incredible damage. It all starts with Charge with Light. So first, depending on how you want to become Charged with Light, you want to do that first. For us, it's just randomly getting kills, and eventually it'll happen. Once you are Charged with Light, or Charged with Light times 2, either way, you want to throw your Storm Grenade at a group of enemies. The more enemies, the better, because the more enemies you defeat with your grenades, the more super energy you gain because of our double Ashes to Asset mods. When you throw this grenade, it will proc 4 Firepower mods, removing 1 stack of Charge with Light, and it gives you almost your entire grenade charge back. Now you won't get the entire thing back, but it will be very close. The Storm Grenade you just threw will be constantly regenerating super energy for each enemy it kills. If it kills all those enemies, you'll most likely become amplified because it only takes a couple arc kills to become amplified. And as it scores more kills while you're amplified, you'll generate an orb of power because of Spark of Amplitude. Once your Storm Grenade makes short work of a group of enemies, it will simply move and track to other nearby enemies thanks to Spark of Magnitude Fragments, making it last longer. And of course you have Touch of Thunder aspect, making it track and call down extra bolts of lightning. While all this is happening, your grenade will also be causing jolts because of Spark of Shock, thus generating Ionic Traces thanks to Spark of Ions. This Ionic Trace will track to you and give you back even more grenade energy on top of the energy you got from Firepower. This will put you very close to getting your full grenade charge back, requiring you to only need something very small to top you off. And this is where Volt Shot comes into play. Now technically, we're wanting Volt Shot to work with Spark of Ions, generating another Ionic Trace, which will top off our grenades. This does work. You just have to remember that Spark of Ions does have a 10-second cooldown, which will show up at the left side of the screen. So if Spark of Ions is on a cooldown, you won't generate Ionic Traces with Volt Shot until that cooldown ends. This is why a Demolitionist Volt Shot Tempered Metal works perfectly here, because not only would you be generating grenade energy on kills thanks to Demolitionist, but sometimes you'll be getting Ionic Traces from Volt Shot, giving you even more energy. Add on to the fact that Volt Shot jolts enemies, and this jolt chains lightning to surrounding enemies, so you'll be getting even more multi-kills at once with only a few shots thanks to Volt Shot's perk, granting you even more grenade energy from Demolitionist. It's a perfect combination, guys. So you throw that first grenade, all that stuff happens, and in literally a couple short seconds, you have another grenade ready to go. And if you have Charge of Light times 2 to start with, you can throw that grenade as soon as you get it. And you'll have to weigh the pros and cons between Charge Harvester and of course taking charge. Now throughout this process, you'll be getting tons of super energy. Firepower will proc and you'll become amplified, generating an orb which generates super energy, as well as generates an Ionic Trace for more grenade energy. Then you pop off with Volt Shot rounds until that grenade charge is back yet again. But now you're going to want to get Charged with Light again before you repeat this process. But there's a good chance one of your grenades that took your Charge with Light away granted you Charge with Light if you're still using Charge Harvester. And that's why there's pros to Charge Harvester on this point. Remember, Charge Harvester says that as you get assists and kills, you have a higher chance to become Charged with Light. And this is assists and kills with anything, which includes your grenades, which is why we ended up using Charge Harvester here instead of taking charge. Now, once your super energy is full, you're good to go. Just make sure you're amplifying before popping it to make use of Thunder's retorts, and you'll be getting that Thundercrash with that 100% damage on top of that 30% damage on top of it while using that YEET exotic. And if you find yourself up against a boss, hit him with Tractor Cannon before you use Thundercrash, and you're looking at even more damage. Do not be afraid to pop that super. The idea of this build, guys, is to use your super as soon as you get it, because you'll be getting it so fast. You're going to be getting it a lot with this build. This is a fairly simple build guide, but for us Titans that like to just hold the W key and go to Pound Town, this is perfect for us. Try it out, fellas. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And again, Thunder's retort can proc while amplified or while critically wounded. Obviously, it's safer to proc it while amplified, and there's multiple ways to become amplified with this build. But if you find yourself critically wounded, pop that super, especially with Cures of the Fallen Star, because you're going to get an overshield afterwards. So guys, good luck. Again, if you haven't checked out our other Titan builds or even our other Arc 3.0 builds, feel free to check that out. And if you got any build suggestions, feel free to comment them down below. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.